This is the plaintiff, Sean. He says his car was towed to the defendant's shop, and when he went to retrieve his belongings, his PlayStation 5 was missing from the trunk. The defendant says he has video cameras in the place, but when he asked to see the footage, he was told no. Even the cops can't force him to show the videos. Bottom line, he's out $800 and is suing for just that today. This is the defendant, William Mattis. He says the plaintiff came to clean out the car because it was totaled, and then called the next day claiming he was missing a PlayStation. Why didn't the guy notice it was missing the day before when he cleaned the car out? He thinks the guy's making all of this up and is trying to take advantage of him, but he didn't steal a thing, and he thinks the judge will agree. He's accused of playing games.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says that the defendant towed his car, and when it was in the defendant's tow yard, his PlayStation went missing and wants the defendant to pay up. But the defendant says the guy came to clean out his car because it was totaled and then called the next day complaining about his missing PlayStation. It's the case of you're done playing games.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Sean, you are suing Mr. Mattis's tow company for $800 because, according to you, they stole a PS5 from the trunk. Tell me what happened.
The vehicle was involved in an accident when my nephew was driving on somewhere around midnight that Saturday, March 19th.
And how old is your nephew, you said?
21.
All right, go on.
At work, I received the call, so I went and met them on the highway. It's a pretty busy highway where we live. A lot of damage, really dark, pretty dangerous spot. So we were just in a rush to kind of get out of the traffic. So pulled the vehicle over, got the police report, went home. Pretty upset about it.
Now, the vehicle that your nephew was driving, was that drivable?
No, it was not.
No, okay. When that was going to be towed, that happened in front of you?
Yes.
All right.
I came to pick the kids up.
I mean, when I'm dropping off a car at a shop or when my car's going to be towed, the first thing I do is take everything out of it. What happened with that?
To be honest with you, I was really in my feelings about the accident, and like I said, I was at work, so I kind of rushed from work, came there.
What were you doing? What do you do for a living that you were at work at midnight?
We do security services.
Okay, but you're there, and was anything taken from the trunk?
No, nothing was taken from the trunk.
Was anything taken from the car, or did everybody just leave everything inside the car?
No, my nephew did go, because we had picked up the PS5 maybe an hour or two before the accident. We picked it up from a reseller, and they had initially put it in the trunk. But I mean, not in the trunk, in the back seat. And I asked them to put it in the trunk in the event if they ever parked or whatever, because I know he's going to get my nephew. I don't know if he's going to step inside.
Why is it in there at all? Like, I'm curious.
Because I was going to work. We met the reseller before I was headed to work. And my other nephew was coming from work to go get another nephew from work. I know, it sounds a little crazy.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to understand why it's in the car when your nephew's borrowing your car.
Well, the purpose was when we picked it up from the reseller, he was going to pick up my other nephew from work. I was going to work. So pick up the nephew from work, make sure you put it in the house when you get home. But he never made it home because they got into the accident.
So I take it when you're there, you don't remember that you had arranged to have a PS5 in the trunk?
No, honestly, I was just so upset about the accident.
And your nephew, who had, according to you, moved the PS5 from the back seat to the trunk and is in charge of emptying out the car before it gets, he also doesn't remember that he put a PS5 in the trunk.
Yes, he moved it from the back seat to the trunk before we left from each other. At the point of sale, hey, he put it in the back seat. I said,
right.
no,
So there's two people, there's at least two people on the scene who are supposed to know that they put a PS5 in the trunk.
Yes.
And neither of you, when you're collecting stuff from the car and it's about to be towed, say, wait, we got a PS5 in the trunk. All right. So now you go to the tow place on Monday, is it?
Monday, March 21st, yes.
Which is what, the day after the accident?
2 days after.
2 days after the accident.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
And when you go, it's in order to do what?
To see if the car was salvageable, because again, it was late at night when the accident occurred. At which point we went and checked the damage. We said, I'm gonna take out the Easy Pass. I did clean out the trunk and the cabin, take the things that were important to me. Again, PS5 never mentioned my mind, never got to my mind. It wasn't until March 23rd, my nephew Thomas's birthday, who we bought the PS5 for. Oh, we got to wrap it. Hold up. I asked my nephew, I said, where's the PS5? I know we had picked it up. He go, oh, it's in the trunk of the car. I'm like, I didn't see it. Called the tow yard. Hey, there was supposed to be a PS5 in that trunk. We left it. I remember seeing the black bag that it was in. I remember, but I don't remember getting the PS5.
You remember seeing the black bag when?
First time and came back the second time on the 23rd.
Okay, the Monday that you go after the accident, did you see a garbage bag?
Yes.
Well, how did your light bulb not turn on about a PS5 then?
It honestly didn't. Listen, I asked myself this question a million times.
I bet your wife asked you a couple of times too, right? Yeah.
Trust
All right,
me,
so
Mom, Grandma, everyone involved, because we all chipped in on it.
Yeah. Now, you on the 23rd, which is now how many days after the Monday?
2.
Okay, you call
That
them
was
and
his
say,
actual
hey,
birthday.
where's a PS5 that was in the trunk? And what do they say?
I asked them if they could please run the cameras and see if maybe someone hopped their gate or broke onto their premise and took something out that car, maybe any of the cars, because I know for a fact it was in there because I put it in there. I made sure I tell my nephew to take it from the back seat to the trunk. I know it was in there for a fact. I still see the black garbage bag.
Right, and
that it was
I
in.
need to trust you that you know it was in there for a fact, but in the 2 times when you're responsible for emptying the car, neither time do you know that it was in there for a fact. That's the part that's a little bit disturbing. Let me hear from you, Mr. Mattis. He asks you to do what?
Okay, Judge. Someone called on Monday, March 21st, and they wanted to come pick up the car. So we told them the car most likely is totaled. They should contact their insurance company. And they said that they wanted to come down at least to look and get some personal property from the car. He came down with the driver of the car and the registered owner.
Who's the registered owner?
I don't want to say her name, but...
Oh, but it's not him? It's not Mr.
No.
It's not
No,
Mr.
ma'am.
Sean? Okay, go on.
So they came down. We allowed them access to the car. Now, we didn't have keys for the car. The car was locked. So at the time of the tow, we didn't have the key. So they came down on Monday, and they took everything out of the car, and they said they were going to leave the key, and they were going to contact the insurance company, and that's what they did.
And then when did you hear from him that, hey, there's a problem, where's the PS5?
Okay, on Wednesday, March 23rd, the plaintiff showed up unannounced and said, hey, I forgot a PS5 in the trunk. And I had said to him, well, you and the registered owner came down on Monday and took everything out of the car. And he said, yeah, but we forgot this PS5. And I said, well, I can't allow the plaintiff access because he's not the registered owner. So
Well, you
he
allowed
said,
him access before.
with the registered owner.
Oh, the first time he was with the
Right.
registered owner, who
Yes,
is
ma'am.
who? The missus? Who's the registered owner, Mr. Sean?
The missus, and she was not there the first time. He actually accompanied me to the vehicle.
I've got a copy of the registered owner's driver's license to show that she
Oh,
was.
put it up to the screen. Let me see that. Is that the missus?
Yeah.
Oh, how would he have that if she wasn't with you that first time then? Let's get off of that point and let's move on and ask you about this. Tell me, when he on Wednesday says there was a PS5, doesn't he also ask you, I'd really like to see the video?
Yes, Judge, that was on Wednesday. And what I did when the plaintiff was there is I went to the car by myself to just check again to see if there was anything in the car. And there was nothing in the car. I mean, the car was clean, the interior was clean, the trunk was clean. We had the keys at that point on Wednesday because they dropped them off the prior Monday, and there was nothing in the car. The car was cleaned out. Nothing was left in the car. Nothing.
Okay.
I looked
now,
under the seats.
Okay, but now I want you to work with me a second. So he says, hey, listen, there was a PS5. And I understand that your initial reaction is to belly laugh because they've had 2 opportunities to clean out the car. However, why don't you let him look at the tapes?
The tapes weren't working at the time the car was towed.
How do you know?
They were disconnected.
Why were they
moving from that-
disconnected? What's the point of them if you're not having them running?
We were moving from that facility the following weekend. We moved out of there.
I know, but
The last-
normally you wouldn't unplug them until you're moving. So why is it that they're not working?
We moved the system to our new location.
So there were no systems. I don't understand.
Just the camera head, but not the actual equipment to video.
Ah, okay. And why weren't you able to tell him that the first time he talked to you? Because apparently he comes back after that Wednesday, right?
Yes, Judge.
How many times does he come back?
I believe it was one time after that Wednesday.
All right. Now, at another moment before he shows up there, he calls, right? And speaks to somebody other than you.
Correct. He's called multiple times.
Right.
Looking for a different result.
Right. And what he's looking for is to be able to see video. And is he ever told, well, I don't know, we'll get back to you?
Yes, Judge.
By whom?
The other person that's in charge of the yard. We have a yard person that handles all of the incoming and outgoing cars.
So why didn't that person, I don't know why you're snickering, because you have a really, really tough case to prove, Mr. Sean. Why didn't that person say, well, we don't have cameras because we've been moving?
I can't speak for the other person, Judge. I just know the facts of the case. And at the time of the accident...
Did you ever look at any tapes?
No.
Okay, and were the police ever called there?
After March 23rd, yes.
All right, and why are the police called?
The plaintiff called the police.
Oh, okay. And why did you call the police, Mr. Sean?
Because when he came in, the gentleman, I confronted him about the PS5.
Is that this gentleman or a different gentleman?
No, another gentleman
Okay.
that works at the yard.
Okay.
Confronted about the PS5, them hanging up on me, and no one ever getting back to me about the PS5 that was stolen. To which point he pushed me and then pulled out a taser. I thought it was a gun, but it was a taser, and began shocking me.
How did he push you?
Just like this, double
With his
hand right
two
in my
hands?
chest.
How?
Yes.
Normally these guys are behind a plexiglass.
He was coming in the yard. So
Okay.
as soon as you come in, the door, you kind of meet right there. So little half door and from the exit door. So they 1 foot, maybe 2 feet max for him to get from one door to the other.
And
so when he opens the door, I'm right there.
So he opens the door. He's on the inside and he's opening the door to walk outside?
No, he's on the outside coming
He's on
in.
the
I'm already
outside,
inside.
trying to come inside. And are you already inside or are you outside also?
I'm inside already.
You're inside. He opens the door and what happens?
I said, brother, good evening. How are you? I'm the guy that's been calling about my PS5. Were you the one that hung up on me? Someone's supposed to be getting back to me about running these cameras, and you guys give me the runaround. I need those cameras. And he says, get out my way. I said, I don't have to move. I'm asking you a question. Were you the one that hung up on me? Why hasn't anyone gotten back to me? At which point he pushed me, and then he pulled out the taser, and he started shocking me.
Were you there when
Shocking
this
me.
stuff happens, Mr. Mattis?
Yes, Judge.
What happened?
The plaintiff called repeatedly. I couldn't tell you how many times, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And he was getting the same answer. We didn't take the PlayStation 5. We don't have it. We've been conducting business at the same location for 20 years. There's somebody there 24 hours a day. There was nobody that jumped the fence. There's nobody that broke into his car. It just doesn't happen. So he kept calling over and over, disrupting the business. So our yard guy hung up on him. That's why he came there the time after the Wednesday.
How long
when he
after
came by
the
himself.
hang-up did he go there?
It was the same day.
Okay, and
Might have
then
been
what
the next day or
happened?
the same day. He was very belligerent. He was very aggressive. He wanted to see the cameras. He said he wasn't leaving. I had told him at that point, which was 2 weeks after the tow, that the cameras weren't working. He said, oh, that's the BS. It's not true. He wants to know, what am I going to do about the missing PlayStation? I told him nothing. And when the yard guy was coming in, our waiting area is small. The plaintiff wouldn't move. They're both bigger guys. So we have a half door that we conduct business over, not like plexiglass. So they just were chest to chest, and they were arguing. And the plaintiff was saying, you're the one that hung up on me, started cursing. And the yard guy said, look, I just need to get through. And he just wouldn't let him through. So the yard guy had a taser in his pocket, and he reached all the way to the right just to make it known, and he let it go off. When it went off, the plaintiff moved out of the way.
Did
and
the
yard
plaintiff
guy was able
actually
to come
get
to the office.
tased? Did you actually get tased, Mr.
No,
Sean?
ma'am. No,
Oh,
ma'am.
no, okay. All right, so you You call the police, and what happens, Mr.
Right.
Sean?
Police come, ask me what occurred. Of course, they tried to say they were fearful of their life. That's why he had to pull out the taser and defend himself. They told me that they couldn't force them to show me the cameras, but they will take a police report. Some of these businesses are very sketchy, but that's not their call to make. I just have to go through the judicial process.
Okay. But, Mr. Sean, what evidence do you have that they stole the PS5?
Unfortunately, I have none other than the fact that I know was in there.
Right. And so that's what we're going on, right? Do you have a receipt for the
100%.
PS5?
No, as I told you before,
Okay,
we
so
bought
you
it from
have
a
no,
reseller.
I
It's a
understand.
very
So you
high-
have no receipt for the PS5. You are telling me that the way you know it was in there is because you know it was in there.
Yes,
And you and I both know that twice at the scene of the accident and then later on the Monday, you, who are positive it was in there, never take it, even though you have access to go in. But I'm supposed to presume that there are a bunch of thieves and hoodlums who stole your PS5. And, the proof's just not there. My verdict in this case is for the defendant.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, unfortunately, the plaintiff didn't have the proof he needed to convince the judge that he should prevail, so the plaintiff does not prevail. If you'd have had a receipt for it or something, it would have helped you. But I'm sorry.
Sir.
And you
Appreciate you.
You just don't prevail. Mr. Mateus, does this happen very often to guys like you, who run a yard like that, where you get accused of taking things?
Not so much anymore, but lately, as of the last 6 months, people start to complain.
That's a pretty interesting case. Harvey, what are your thoughts?
Okay, Doug. So look, the plaintiff had 2 opportunities to check this and get the PlayStation back. Didn't take advantage of it. There's something in the law where if you sit on your hands and you don't take action, at a point, it's on you. Even if you would have had a claim going in, if you delay too long, you're going to lose.
Judge Marilyn, if you live in Florida and North Carolina, where's your southern accent? I was born in Texas and lived in Florida and Georgia, and I've lived in Oregon since 1980. Everyone mentions my accent. Where's yours?
Well, I was actually born in Queens, in New York.
Astoria.
Yes, and I moved to Florida when I was 8.
Right.
So, and everyone used to make fun of my New York accent back then. I remember being self-conscious about it. But I lost that pretty quickly. And people in Miami's just a suburb of New York, really.
Right.
We're not exactly Southern.
That's
we're
true.
more.
And in fact, Miami almost has its own dialect.
It has its own lilt.
50 years of Hispanic population, the Latino population has influenced the way people speak, I think, throughout
even non-Spanish speakers who are not Hispanic have a certain lilt.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
You can hear it in some letters, usually maybe L's and R's or something. There's a little something there.
Right.
I totally agree. Plus, with you, there's the Spanglish, which you are always.
I have no idea what you're saying.
You do it all the time. I call it Cubonics.
Cubonics?
You know how it is, this little.
Yeah, some things are just better said in our lingo.